Suffering has taken on a new dimension in the past year and a half, perpetrated by the pandemic that, like the many-headed mythological Hydra, has been rearing its monstrous heads across the breadth of our planet, causing unfettered pain and suffering, especially to those least equipped to bear it. While the vaccine may ultimately bring about immunity in those fortunate enough to have access to it, what our world needs is the elixir of compassion. Not just a kind word or some teardrops, but tangible actions and a lending hand. We need empathy like we've never needed it before, so that we can feel and understand the pain of not just our fellow humans, but of the countless other species who cohabit the earth, and indeed for all of Mother Nature. For never before in the history of humankind have we been so close to an environmental meltdown as we are now, with anthropogenic climate change and biodiversity loss amplifying pre-existing inequalities and disproportionately impacting people and regions that are least responsible for it. How can we be so insensitive to allow this to happen? How can we be so engrossed in our own self-preservation that we continue to ignore the fires that are burning down pristine rainforests, and with it, the livelihoods of millions who have for generations lived symbiotically within these biomes? How can we be so myopic that we cannot see that these fires and typhoons are now inching towards our doorsteps in the Western world? The thread from which the sword of Damocles is so precariously hanging above our heads may snap at any moment, hurtling us towards a precipice from which there is no clawing back, unless we pledge to change, unless we seek to not build back better, but to build forward equal. Because going back to where we were will not be better, but just a reimposition of the same inequality that has been so endemic to our societies, evident even in this hour of crisis, one that still allows rich nations to hoard and then dump unused expired vaccines while millions in the global south are still waiting for their first shot. As a young person who has been working on the front lines amongst the world's most marginalized communities, I urge everyone to come together and move beyond the rhetoric to stop these endless discussions and procrastinations, and instead convert policies into meaningful actions on the ground that are people-centric, that are empathetic, and those that have the long-term equity and planetary balance as their purpose. There is also an urgent need for self-introspection and to ask ourselves, what can we do more? What do we need to do differently? Because I firmly believe that change must first begin with the individual. And that has been my mantra that has fueled my drive for challenging the status quo and finding localized solutions to these multifarious global issues. While we have witnessed tremendous technological advancement over the past decades, continued economic and social insecurities and inequities have lessened trust in institutions. Sadly, economic success has thus far remained unequal and almost always has come at the cost of environmental degradation and social equality. Irrefutable evidence of accelerating environmental degradation and the climate crisis grows more compelling each day. In an era of fragmentation and frustration, societies are gradually turning away from the spirit of multilateral cooperation. Over the past 6 years, with all of these issues reaching a crescendo, there has been an agreement in the form of the Sustainable Development Goals that we have been on the wrong path and that we need to change the course of development to one oriented around interwoven economic, social, and environmental dimensions as first established by the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992 and ratified thereafter at Rio Plus 20 in 2012. The 2015 adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on climate change created a new development paradigm, a blueprint for prosperity, people, and planet predicated on partnerships and multilateralism. Yet, the agenda is already off track. Policy commitments have not translated into policy actions. The greatest hurdles remain in the fact that the change in behaviors and mindsets do not yet match our ambitions for sustainable development and peace. And it is this behavioral change that I am urging everyone to bring about. It is time to think beyond our individual needs. It's time to come out of our cocoons and open our minds to meaningful change and facilitate the restoration of planetary balance that will ultimately lead to the creation of the future we want, one where no one is left behind. Thank you.